All right, welcome back. FM Talk 1065 and Midday Mobile. Glad to have you along. And it's just not perfect for the discussions we've been having for the last few days. Discussions of Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act. And just the politics of it right now, why this wouldn't be the number one subject discussed by any Republican running for office right now, even specifically the top Republican running for office. Let's talk more about this with a man that actually knows way more about it, the man that wrote some of the books about it. This is a chance for you to get somebody who specializes in constitutional law, the U.S. Supreme Court, and the intersection of law and technology. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Josh Blackman to Midday Mobile. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much for having me.
So this is great. So instead of theorizing about what the law is here, we have an associate professor of law from Houston College on with us, and you're somebody who has written now 2 books about this subject?
Yeah, 2 books and probably a third coming soon.
It keeps on giving, right? The Affordable Care Act keeps on giving.
Few people has actually profited off Obamacare. It seems that way.
Oh, good. So I'm going to come to you to get some money to pay the ever-increasing premium for health insurance for my family. And I want to let people know that you're speaking today here in Mobile, and you've been touring around the state of Alabama talking to groups about specifically this, ACA, Obamacare.
Exactly. I was in Birmingham on Wednesday. I was in Montgomery on Thursday. And Friday at noon, I'm speaking to the Mobile Federal Society chapter.
And I'm going to give people some details here shortly on that. But what about this? Here we sit, the latest news this week that's had so many jaws falling even further down is another 25 to 29% rate increase for Obamacare. I mean, it seems to never stop.
Yeah, so this is really the latest string of developments of the Affordable Care Act. It's hard to believe that we're only in year 3 of this massive project. And as I discussed my new book called Unraveled, Obamacare, Religious Liberty, and Executive Power, the law is already unraveling.
And one of the questions here is about that unraveling. I don't want to get into some detail there, but I listened to some of your commentary about the book and about the Affordable Care Act, and I found myself nodding along accordingly to what you said about those of us that saw this coming when it was set up, and not just about the formula here that even a hayseed like me could see wasn't going to work, but the fact that the law wasn't really the law, because during the process of putting this together, it was every time it would meet some sort of wall or some kind of headwind, they would just tweak and change the law or delay things. I mean, if this was a good idea when they brought it out, then why would they have changed something? It seemed like every month they changed something or delayed something.
You know, the fact of the matter is the Affordable Care Act was passed on a straight party line vote. Not a single Republican backed it. And there's 2 ways of looking at this, right? One, you say, well, the Republicans are being intransigent and they weren't supporting Obamacare. I think the other answer is they wanted nothing to do with this centralization of power over health insurance. But a consequence of passing Obamacare on the straight party line vote is that there was no interest in making any changes to it. In fact, Republicans are still intent on repealing and replacing the law. And as a consequence of this, the president has taken a series of illegal actions to modify, delay, and suspend the Affordable Care Act.
And that's what we saw. I was thinking about, remember the big unions, right? They were going to have an issue with the Cadillac plan, and then, okay, we'll delay this. Or what about Congress? Are they going to have to adhere to it? Then we'll delay and change that. I mean, this was, you're saying, because it was not enough political will? I mean, they got it passed.
The thinking was this. Once you create an entitlement, it's impossible to eliminate it. And President Obama knew once they made this massive new entitlement, it can never be gotten rid of. And they were willing to take the risk that it wouldn't work, people would hate it, just to get that entitlement through. And now we're suffering through the consequences of that short-sighted decision. I'll give you a very easy example. The Senate bill, the Affordable Care Act bill, was released in December of 2009. That was a draft version of the bill. It was not meant to be the final version of the bill. What happened? Senator Ted Kennedy passed away and was replaced by Scott Brown, a Republican. The Senate Democrats lost their filibuster-proof majority. So as a result, they had to basically pass this draft version of the bill that was never meant to be final, and we're stuck with now. So we're really dealing with an incomplete law passed under, bizarre circumstances that was never meant to be final. And this is what's transforming, 15 or 20% of the U.S. economy. It's really stunning when you think about it.
So, I mean, even those behind creating this would agree that this was not what it was supposed to be. I mean, this was just a rough draft.
Yeah, and in fact, there are letters from Jonathan Gruber and these other characters from 2010 saying, well, we know it's not perfect, but let's pass the bill now and we'll deal with it later. What they didn't anticipate was that people would not want to deal with it later for the simple reason that they hated this law and they don't want it to succeed. So there's a lot of naivete among the sponsors over whether they could pass this bill now and fix it. They thought, once we pass it, people will fall in line, and that simply did not happen.
Yeah, it's not happening at many levels, and I want to get into it. And if you're just joining us, talking to Josh Blackman, and you can grab one of the two books, and getting ready to probably be a third book about this, the latest one, Unraveled, Obamacare, Religious Liberty, and Executive Power. Okay, Josh, help me with this. I'm just a regular guy here in Mobile, Alabama, and I could look at just the numbers for what the Affordable Care Act was planning on doing. I said, how does that work? How do you bring more people into an insurance pool that bring with them even greater risk and condition and bring down the rate? I said, it just mathematically makes zero sense. And I'm not somebody, I'm not an actuary. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a pointy head at a think tank.
Look, the ACA was built on a series of arrogant assumptions. The arrogant assumption was that if we can provide people with subsidized health insurance, and if we force them to buy it at the risk of paying a penalty, then you'll have these people flocking to join Obamacare. That was naive and arrogant. It simply has not proven to be the case. The government forecasted that nearly 20 million people would sign up for Obamacare by 2016. You know what the actual number's been?
What?
10 million.
Wow.
So barely half the number of people they expect to sign up for Obamacare have actually indeed signed up. And this was a colossal and spectacular mistake of judgment. This is why the insurance companies have lost so much money and that they're exiting the markets in droves. They expected all these customers to be able to sign up and make them profit. But what's turned out to have happened is the only people registering are old and sick people, and they are unable to compensate for the cost of this new massive entitlement.
Right. I mean, the way this is completely, they should have seen this is completely contrary to the way insurance works and spreading risk. And Josh, if they were serious, okay, if the constructors of this were serious about making the young people, and I don't like the whole plan whatsoever, but if we're going to talk about tweaks in a failed system, if you were going to say we got to have the young people that don't need insurance to pay for insurance, wouldn't you make the fine some outrageous amount that would be way more than what any premium for insurance would be? Wouldn't you give it teeth?
Well, what's fascinating here is that when they were selling the law, you may recall President Obama insisted that there was no taxes, right? This was the debate. Was the Obamacare penalty a tax? And the president said, no, we are not taxing people. Instead, they said, this is a small penalty for going uninsured. Well, the second they got to the Supreme Court, they said, oh, no, just kidding. It's actually a tax.
Right.
But the problem is the cost of going uninsured is about $700 a year. For many people, insurance costs more than $700 a month. And when you buy that policy, your deductible is so high that you're not actually getting anything for it until you spend thousands of dollars in your co-payments. So for a lot of people, they're making the choice of simply paying the penalty and going uninsured. And this is one of the perverse consequences of making health insurance so expensive.
So do you think actually that formula forced people out? I mean, I'm wondering if you could get, in the days before Obamacare, maybe a young person could get something with a high deductible and, just really something for catastrophic that currently is not insured because of the scenario that in a world without Obamacare would be insured. Are you following what I'm asking?
Yeah. Well, one of the consequences of the Affordable Care Act was to prohibit high deductible plans that were, these sort of catastrophic plans, right? Before Obamacare, if you were young and healthy, your biggest risk was some sort of, car accident,
Yeah.
right? Some sort of wreck. And you would buy a plan that would cover maybe emergency room visits, but wouldn't cover your average routine preventive care. Obamacare said, no, that's not permitted. Now, everyone will be required to pay for very comprehensive coverage, which is not cheap. It's very expensive.
Now, help me with this, and from a constitutional angle, this is one of the things, the hang-ups, and I talked about it as this debate was raging, and I how do you force somebody in at least for a limited time, a free republic for a little bit of time still, how do you force somebody who is not engaged in any activity to do things? How do you regulate somebody who is, I always said, they're sitting still in a chair in a room with nothing in it? How can the government compel or regulate that person? How did they make that jump constitutionally? I mean, I'm thinking back, you're talking about the ruling, Supreme Court ruling there. How do you put those two ends together?
Well, Chief Justice Roberts ruled in his opinion, first, Congress cannot compel people to buy insurance. Second, what they can do is tax the uninsured. Now you may ask, Josh, what's the difference? Whether
Yes.
you're paying people, so whether you're forcing people to buy insurance or taxing them for being uninsured, the end result is the same. People without insurance have to pay money to the government. This was the Chief Justice's so-called saving instruction. He said, well, Congress has a much greater power of taxing people, so this is permissible. But there's a fundamental core liberty argument here that I think you're talking about, that the government is making you, as a condition of being alive, buy a commercial product. And I think that is extremely problematic from a freedom perspective.
Yeah, that's the one I thought was going to be. That was the exit parachute. I mean, that was a rescue parachute. That was the thing that would make sure this didn't happen. But it seems to, by people much smarter than me, be explained differently. I mean, you tax something, yes, Congress and the House with the power of the purse string and power of taxation, but you have to be engaged in something to be taxed, right? I mean, you have to be doing something, earning something, some sort of activity to be taxed. But you don't for ACA. You could be sitting still doing absolutely nothing, engaged in nothing, and still be facing this tax or penalty.
Exactly. And it's a startling thought that the government can make you do something by merely being alive. And by your mere existence, you are now being taxed. Whether or not you engage in the activity, you are now compelled to do this. And I think it's extremely problematic to have this sort of rationale. But the Supreme Court blessed it, and that is now the law of the land. Okay.
Well, then, I tell you what, when we come back from break, and there's a lot of us would say, well, and you mentioned it a second ago, that once it's there, what is done can't be undone. I want to find out if it can be undone and how you think that might happen. So can you hang out with us for just a couple more minutes?
I'd be thrilled to. Thank you.
All right. Coming back, more on Midday Mobile. This is a great conversation. Josh Blackman will talk about his book. More information over at joshblackman.com. I should say books. Let's make it plural. Unprecedented, the constitutional challenge to Obamacare. And the new book, Unraveled, Obamacare, Religious Liberty, and Executive Power. Coming right back. Stay close.
CBS News special report. The FBI is back on the case of Hillary Clinton's emails. New emails and an unrelated case have come to light. The FBI is investigating. Live to CBS News correspondent Stephen Portnoy in Washington. Stephen, what is the new information here?
Well, we don't know what the FBI has found, whether these are more classified emails or not, but this news is hitting 11 days before the election. It's a stunning development that comes months after the FBI director and the attorney general both publicly said the case was closed.
So does this mean the investigation is reopening?
It's hard to say. Some sources tell us we should not think of it that way, that the investigation has not formally been reopened, but that remains a possibility. Comey tells Congress he is authorizing agents to dig back into the emails. He did tell lawmakers over the summer that this investigation had been completed. Now it appears differently, Deborah.
CBS News correspondent Stephen Portnoy, CBS News Special Report. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
This information update brought to you by Forklift Hunter, specializing in forklift repair, maintenance, parts, and sales. If you're not a current Forklift Hunter customer, give us a shot. Once you see the savings, you'll never go back to the dealers. Visit forklifthunter.com or call 479-2270.
FM Talk 106.5, the Gulf Coast Weather Authority, and Dr. Bill Williams.
We'll expect sunny skies and warm temperatures this afternoon with readings in the mid-80s. Tonight, clear with patchy fog developing after midnight, lows in the upper 50s. And then tomorrow, sunny and warm again with highs in the mid-80s. This is meteorologist Dr. Bill Williams for FM Talk 106.5.
FM Talk 106.5, the Gulf Coast Weather Authority.
You love your car or SUV but dread having it serviced because of the outrageous prices that you have to pay at the dealership? Let's face it, every vehicle needs to be serviced, but if you could find a service department that could take care of your car while saving you time and money, well, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? This is Marshall Farley. At Classic Cars, we can do just that. Everyone knows we sell the nicest cars on the Gulf Coast, but we also have a full service department that services all makes and models. Whether you drive a Mercedes, BMW, Lexus, Honda, Chevy, Ford, Toyota, it doesn't matter. We service all these and more. We'll save you time and money and make the experience a pleasurable one. Even if you purchase your car at a franchise dealer, that doesn't mean you have to take it back to them and pay their high prices. At Classic Cars, our rates are on average $30 per labor hour less than the big guys. We can take care of all your vehicle's needs, from oil changes, scheduled maintenance, tune-ups, brakes, AC, electrical. We do it all, and we do it for less. The next time you need your car service, give us a call. Let us take care of your car. Mention you heard this ad on Talk Radio, and we'll give you an additional 10% discount on parts and labor on top of our already low prices. That's Classic Cars on Cottage Hill Road, 479-6676 or KingandCars.com.
I'm Warren Gardner, along with Sean for Mattress Firm. It's been 1 month now since I've been sleeping on my new Mattress Firm bedding and mattress. And it's also Mattress Firm's semi-annual sale. A sale so big it only happens twice a year. Store-wide savings up to $300 on the best brands like Sealy, Serta, Beauty Rest. Queen mattresses start as low as $179.99. That Mattress Firm will help you find the mattress that's right for you. They did me. Right now, your choice, Sealy, Firm, or Hampton & Rhodes Pillow Top Queen Set for just $299. Come experience the all-new custom collection crafted exclusively for Mattress Firm, featuring luxury lines from Tempur-Pedic and Beauty Rest. For a limited time, purchase any custom collection of Tempur-Pedic Mattress Firm set and get Mattress Firm bonus cash up to $300 that goes towards a free pillow, free mattress protector, and free frame. You'll find them here in Mobile. I shopped at McGowan Park on Government Boulevard. Also 3683 Airport Boulevard, close to us. It's Mattress Firm.
Lacrosse season is approaching. We want your child to be a part of this exciting sport that welcomes kids of all size and ability. While lacrosse is new to Mobile, it's actually the oldest sport in America, created by the Native Americans who played lacrosse to prepare for war. We now play for the fun of the sport. Our goal is to build sportsmanship, teamwork, help our children learn to play lacrosse, and to be better people. Mobile Mavericks invite kids from 6 years old to the 8th grade. Lacrosse starts in January, but you can register now by going to mobilemaverickslacrosse.org.
Cancer, we are your number one enemy. We are MD Anderson. We're fighting you with our exceptional team of doctors and nurses, advanced technology, groundbreaking clinical trials, innovative treatment options, and a collaborative approach to care. Ranked number one in the nation for cancer care by U.S. News and World Report. The University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center is focused on making cancer history. To make an appointment, call 1-855-894-0145 or visit makingcancerhistory.com.
Good people and good hands go together, like Allstate and Craig Smith at the Craig Smith Agency. Craig has worked with Allstate for over 36 years. As a part of this community, he takes the time to get to know folks, what's important to them, and how...
Back to it, a conversation with Josh Blackman, who is in town today and has been touring around our state talking about... Well, I wish you were in town talking about Fantasy SCOTUS and we didn't have Obamacare to talk about. Just a side note, because I'm fascinated by this. How does Fantasy SCOTUS work, Josh?
Fantasy SCOTUS is a Supreme Court fantasy league that they created about 7 years ago. And now we have over 10,000 people who make predictions about how the Supreme Court will decide cases. It's very accurate, and some of our best players can get over 80% accuracy, which is amazing.
I so want in. Can I? I mean, do I have to hold a a license to get in?
Anyone can sign up.
Okay, I'm doing that today. I'm fascinated by this Fantasy SCOTUS, y'all. This would be a lot of fun. We'll be talking about this in the future. I want to talk about though what we do in the future with the Affordable Care Act? I mean, what is next? I mean, you've talked about here's the problems from the genesis of this. They're built in. The failures are built in. So are we to assume that it was designed to fail? Is it designed to, that rough draft that was brought out that was passed, is that designed to fail? Is that the job?
I get this question all the time. My response is not this quickly. I wrote a piece in National Review called Obamacare is Unraveling Ahead of Schedule. The genius central planners who supported this law recognized that this law was not for the long haul, but they didn't think it would blow up in 3 years. They thought it would take a little bit longer. The surprising factor is how quickly everything has blown up.
But I mean, and we discussed some of this during the break, but it's basic human nature to do what's happening now, whether it's a young person who takes the choice of the penalty because it's less than the outrageous premium they'd be paying for the insurance, or it's the person who doesn't have the insurance who signs up for it only when they need it.
Yeah, exactly right. People are rational. They behave rationally. And if you tell someone that we will give you health insurance no matter what, they're going to sign up when they're sick. And when they're done getting their treatment, chemotherapy, whatever surgery, they'll cancel their coverage. And everyone else is stuck with the bill.
That's the rub here. How do people, whether it's Gruber or others, in setting this, how do they not know, or were they willfully ignorant to what you just said? People being logical, human nature.
I think they honestly believed that it would last long enough to give people confidence that the government could reform healthcare, but not long enough to be permanent. That it would be this perfect solution. Heads I win, tails you lose. It leads to some sort of national health care, no matter what happens.
There we go, and that's what I want to get at. So that is the purpose. A single payer. It's happening sooner.
That's your end game. They want it one way or the other.
What does that look like? What do you think that looks like? We heard Bernie Sanders on the campaign trail talking about it, but from the pieces, from the parts that they have to work with the Affordable Care Act, in your opinion, what would that look like? How would they get there?
The short answer is they can't get the full single payer without Congress actually voting on it. The way it starts is like boiling a lobster in a pot. You start with the water a little bit warm, and you keep cranking up the temperature. And this is what we call a public option. What does that mean? The government will start selling an insurance plan on the marketplaces to compete with private insurers. But make no mistake, there's no competition because corporations are bound by profit. If something's not profitable, they leave. The government option is funded by U.S. taxpayers, and it will fund the entire plan out of the U.S. Treasury, whether or not it makes a profit. Insurance companies can't compete. And once you have that, the private insurers simply drop out of the market altogether, and that is significant.
Yeah, this is not way off in the future. I heard today during speeches, and I think one from Hillary Clinton today, one from President Obama yesterday. They said exactly what you just said. They started talking about this public option.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a secret, right? I mean, this was something that Democrats wanted in 2009 and 10, but simply lacked the votes to accomplish. But now that insurance is becoming unaffordable, they'll simply say, hey, let's have a government option that costs half as much, and then we'll put the private insurers out of business. There's no mystery here how this works. So I describe it as like a Trojan horse with windows. We know what's inside.
Trojan horse on wheels?
Trojan horse with windows.
Windows, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay. So, but we continue to roll it through the gates too, though. I mean, we're just willingly or not willingly, we've opened up the gates and we're bringing that horse in. It's here.
Exactly. It's rolling in.
Okay. So then, of course, I'm bound this way to always ask these questions. Maybe it's a little idealist left in me. What can be done, Josh? How would you fight this?
So the short answer is once you give an entitlement away to millions of people, you can't remove it. So the victory of President Obama in 2009 was getting it done at any cost, and these are the steep political costs. The short answer. Thank you. The short answer is we need to change the way that employers provide health insurance, right? Today, health insurance is primarily provided through employers. This is a very, very bad idea. And the reason why is it becomes a form of compensation. A much better plan would let people buy their own policies in a marketplace separate from the employer, so moves around with them. It's a very bad proposal. But this suggestion I'm giving would actually uproot much more in terms of how insurance is provided. People would not like it very much.
Well, I mean, but how did we get to where we are? Because if you think about the comparison from, let's say, our car insurance to our health insurance, the idea that car insurance would be provided by your employer is ridiculous. But it seems like nobody would question why health insurance is.
The reason why we have health insurance provided through employers is because of labor unions. Since World War II, labor unions have been able to negotiate benefits that take up the largest form of their compensation. They get these gold-plated plans that are not taxed, and this is something that their members want. That's why we're never going to get rid of employer-provided health insurance. Indeed, you mentioned the Cadillac tax before. Mm-hmm. The Cadillac tax is a 40% excise tax on health insurance. Okay, what does this mean? Very generous plans would go away. Unions can't have that because their primary form of compensation is through a health insurance. So what happened? Last year, Democrats, Republicans agreed, let's delay the Cadillac tax. We delayed it 1 year, 2 years. It will never go into effect. So one of the few actually good parts of Obamacare that would encourage people to leave these gold-plated plans will now never go into effect. And I think that's actually symptomatic of the fact that people are not willing to actually engage in meaningful discussions of healthcare reform. They'll simply kick the can down the road, and they'll say, well, you can keep your plan if you like it, but it'll be more expensive for everyone else.
Tell folks if they want to get a copy of your books and get ready for the third in this installment, probably sometime soon. Where do they go, Josh?
You can buy the book on Amazon. The first book is called Unprecedented, The Constitutional Challenge to Obamacare. The second book is called Unraveled, Obamacare, Religious Liberty and Executive Power. And in probably 2 years or so, I'll be writing the third book, which will be called Undone. And I think that will be the trilogy.
And I'm picturing the Trojan horse with the windows on the front cover, something like that.
That's a good suggestion.
Josh Blackman, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, and give you a link on our Facebook page to more info about that. And we're coming right back.
For FM Talk 106.5, I'm Devin Walsh, News 5. The FBI conducted an operation at an Eastern Shore pain clinic this morning. Agents were at Eastern Shore Neurology and Pain Center removing boxes and computer equipment. The clinic is operated by Dr. Rasan Tarabian, a neurologist.